everyone, welcome back to my channel. I'm Leandra the TBR0, and today I'm going to reveal what my September TBR is going to look like. And to do that, I also have to introduce to you a different TBR game. If you're new here, every single month this year, I've been highlighting a different booktuber, watching their TBR game, reacting to the prompts that they give themselves, as well as unknowingly giving to me. And then I proceed to choose the books based on those prompts. I have found it to be such a fun segment on my channel, especially because I get to highlight different booktubers, appreciate their creativity, introduce you at home to these booktubers if you've never seen them before, and just kind of spread the wealth and enjoy the fact that we are so creative here on this platform. I also have to emphasize that I will not be showcasing any of the books that the booktuber I've chosen has chosen for their TBR. I'm going to react to the prompts they get. You're going to watch my choices, and then I'm going to encourage you now and likely later throughout this video that you should go support this booktuber. Go subscribe to them, they'll be linked below, as well as the TBR game for this month that I am watching. I'm really excited to introduce to you all Brittany from Rescues and Reads. I actually interacted with her all thanks to the amazing Readathon from Bree for Pause in a Book. She was hosting this phenomenal, enormous Readathon back in June, and our mod specifically for the spooky team was Rescues and Reads, and I have really enjoyed getting to know her. It's been really fun, specifically because I think she and I overlap a small amount, but for the most part we kind of keep to our own corners. Our reading tastes are very different. If you aren't already subscribed to Brittany, I highly recommend you check out her channel. She has some great series that she continues to participate in, not only her TBR game, which I only realize now is based off of Sorry. I've been trying to hold off on watching the game because I wanted to have an immediate reaction recorded on screen. So this month was my first time actually seeing what it is, and I love how kind of complex it is, the various directions it can go, and how it's kind of impacted my TBR in a way that I would not have expected in a million years, but here we are. She also is someone who does a lot of content for Book of the Month, so if you're a subscriber to that subscription, then I highly recommend that you check out Brittany's channel so that you can participate in those types of discussions with her. All right, without further ado, I'm going to go back to Past Leandra, where you watch me watch her game, react to the prompts that we both have to participate in, and then I'll meet you back here where I actually show you the stack that I've had to create for myself. Happy watching! All right, let's check out Rescues and Reads, see what her TBR game is even about, and hopefully promote Mystic Readathon and Slayerfest participation. I'm very excited for this.
Hi, Bookish Besties. My name is Brittany. This is Rescues and Reads. Thank you so much for joining me here today. If you are new, welcome. I'm so glad you're here. And if you are already subscribed, as always, I appreciate your continued support. Thank you for returning to another video. Today, it is time to do my September/Slayerfest TBR. If you're not familiar, Slayerfest is a month-long readathon that I created based on Buffy the Vampire Slayer, and it is going to run from September 1st through September 30th. And so the TBR that I built today, for the most part, is going to have to work with Slayerfest. Now, of course, I know the prompts and nobody else knows the prompts. And so here is the goal of today. I'm going to be playing my TBR game. I'm not going to be pulling from the Challenge Cup again. We're going to go ahead and hold off on that for another month, but I am going to be doing my gameplay. And the goal is for every prompt I land on for gameplay, I'm going to see if I can try to fit the books I select for those prompts into Slayerfest somehow. And so after we are done with gameplay, after I've selected all of the books for those prompts, I'm going to go ahead and run through all of the books that I have scheduled for the 10 main prompts of Slayerfest. And so by doing so, and potentially dropping a little bit of a hint here and there, you might be able to guess what the 10 prompts are, because of course you are not going to know them ahead of time. They are being dropped throughout the month of September. So I'm hoping that by giving you a cheeky little sneak peek at some of the books that I plan on reading for the month of September, you might be able to guess them. It is absolutely not too late to join Slayerfest if you want to. I will be sure to have the announcement video linked down below, along with the Discord and the sign up form. And aside from that, I really don't think that I have any other housekeeping. So we are going to go ahead and just jump right into the gameplay.
All right, everybody, it is time for the next round.
This is also a reminder to check out Slayerfest. As Brittany said, it is going to be throughout the entire month of September, and while you're at it, participate in Mystic Readathon, which I've already mentioned, hosted by Nell Diamond. Both of their announcement videos will be linked below. I highly recommend you check it out. And on top of that, Brittany just said, pay attention, because some of her TBR choices are 100% going to be hints to how Slayerfest is going to be going, the prompts, and it's a great way to get excited and support a creator who's put so much work into their own readathon. I'm so excited to check out this game because actually I have no idea what it's about. When I watch Brittany's videos, I typically am watching her content for book of the month, for her wrap-ups and other elements like that. So I've actually never really watched her TBR games, so this is going to be completely no experience for myself and hopefully for you if you've never interacted with rescues and reads. And I'm just excited.
So we are going to go ahead and just jump right into the gameplay.
All right, everybody. It is time for the next round of the My Bad TBR game. It's going to look a little bit different this time because
It's
as you
based
can
off of
see,
the game,
I only
sorry.
have 2 active pawns out on the board, 1 green, 1 yellow. And because of that, I'm not going to be drawing color tiles for the remainder of this round of gameplay just because it's going to start getting to the point where each of the pawns are very, very limited in what they can do. So I'm just going to make my moves based on the prompts, where the pawns are at the time, and things like that. We're going to go ahead and start with the standard 6 draws, but that could change just depending on how kind the cards are to me and whether or not I can make the prompts I land on line up with the books that I have planned for Slayerfest. So without further ado, let's go ahead and draw card number 1.
Okay, so 6 cards at minimum.
All right,
Hubba,
so
hubba.
we're not off to the best
Hooty.
start just because 4 is a backwards movement. So if I move this yellow guy 4, it is 1, 2, 3, 4, yellow on the cover. And if I move this green guy 4, it is 1, 2, 3, 4, foreign country. So that basically means read a book set in a country that you do not live in. And that will actually work perfectly for me. So let me go ahead and flip the board and we'll move that green guy backwards 4. All right, so we have 1, 2, 3, 4, foreign country. All right, so even though I had to move backwards that time, that prompt really worked well for me. So let's go ahead and see if the board continues to be kind.
All right, my first draw was the number 4, a backwards movement, and I chose to move the color green, and this landed me on the prompt of foreign country. And that essentially means that I need to read a book that is set in a country that I do not currently live or that I'm not from.
I've paused it so you aren't going to see what she's chosen, because the whole point is for you to check out Brittany's own video and see what books she chose. But a book that is set in a foreign country, so a country that I have not lived in, I'll say that obviously that includes the United States, and we'll extend that to Belgium and the Netherlands. Even though I really didn't live in the Netherlands for an extended period of time, I still kind of have it in my heart. So yeah, okay, very easy. Cool. I've got nothing else to say. That's a very easy prompt for me because there are so many books set outside of the United States. Number 2. Ooh.
All right, 6 is a very straightforward movement. So if I move this yellow guy forward 6, it is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 random number generator, and then 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 pet pick. So that means a pet would have to pick my read. And honestly, neither one of those are truly ideal, but I think I'm more willing to deal with a random number generator than a pet pick at this point. So we'll go ahead and do 1, 2, 3.
I wonder
4,
what that
5,
entails.
6 random number generator.
All right, then I drew the number 6. I chose to move the yellow pawn, and that landed me on random number generator. And basically how I utilize this is I go to my want to read shelf on Goodreads, and then I use a random number generator. And in this instance, I had about 122 books on my to read shelf. So I did the random number generator 0 to 122, and the number it selected landed me on.
That's a really interesting way to utilize a random generator, especially when it comes to prioritizing your physical TBR or your want to read list. I'll probably do the same with my physical TBR. I did actually, many months ago, do a video that highlighted my entire physical owned book collection, and I might end up using that video to my advantage because each book was assigned a number just so I could kind of keep track of how many books I actually had. So I'll probably do a random number generator with that total, see what number I land on, go to that video, see if I've read that book or unhauled it or whatever the case is, and if I haven't done either of those things, that will be the book that I choose for this prompt. Woohoo! Sounds good. Draw number 3! Woohoo! This has been very interesting so far.
Now 8 gives me the option to either stick with the prompt that I land on or select a different prompt, but I don't actually have control over the prompt that I choose. I have all of the prompts in a cup that I will have to pull from. I will say that I haven't updated that cup since I've updated the board, so some of the prompts in there are going to be no longer relevant, but I think it's going to just depend on what I land on. If I move this guy 8, 1, 2, 3, 4.
I appreciate how complicated this is. adds some intrigue.
To pull from my challenge cup, and then 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 summer. So that essentially just means to read a book that is kind of giving a little bit of summer vibes. So even though I know that moving the green will get me into the safety zone, I think I'm going to go ahead and just stick with summer. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5.
Okay, I don't know if I'm really into the summer vibes anymore.
Prompt. However, that's also a risk because it could be worse. So hopefully I will have made a decision on what I'm going to do by the time I'm updating you on the book that I've selected.
All right, then I drew the number 8 and I chose once again to move the color yellow, and this landed me on summer, which basically means that I need to read a book that's giving me summer vibes. I honestly thought about skipping this prompt just because there wasn't anything on my immediate TBR that I felt gave summer vibes, but I did manage to find a book that I own that will likely satisfy a Slayerfest prompt, and it's kind of giving me summer vibes just because of the bright, fun colors on the cover.
Yeah, I'm in the same boat as Brittany, feeling that summer is ending. September is kind of my month of getting excited for autumn, and that means I'm trying to prioritize autumnal reads and spookier toned books with a lot of atmosphere. Now, there are a lot of creepy summer books, a lot of summer settings that are perfect areas for murder, for crime, for ghoulish activity. So I'm not too worried. I'm just kind of like, I really hope I'm not reading something that is super, super summery. I suppose it could be a summer vibe book in just the type of genre. I have been reading this historical romance for quite some time, Arabella, and I'm not very far into it. I think I'm like 15% in. So if anything, that one very much gives me summer vibes just because it's a historical romance, it's low stakes, it's very sweet and reminds me a bit of, Jane Austen, a bit of Dodie Smith. So if anything, I feel like I could just put that into that prompt because I'm already reading it, but I'm not that far along, and I do want to actually finish it in September. So that I have that in the back of my mind.
All right, draw number 4.
Draw number 4. This is going so fast.
Okay, we have a joker, and that
wow.
is a skip. I may actually utilize that this time around, but we're going to see.
All right, and then next I drew a jack, and you all know what that means. It is a skip, meaning if any of these prompts were not going to work out for me, I am able to skip. And at this time, once again, I don't think I'm going to be able to use it. Honestly, y'all, I think I might need to change like the meaning of the king and the jack because I have just been building them up throughout this round of gameplay for the past almost 2 years at this point. I've barely used any of them, and so I think I could possibly put them to better use. If you have some ideas on how I could better use the jack or the king, please comment down below, or maybe I should limit myself to how many times I could utilize them for a skip or get out of jail free, because I just don't think that I'm utilizing them as much for them to be very beneficial to my gameplay. But yeah, for now, I don't think we're going to use it.
Draw number 5.
Okay.
All right, so that's a get out of start card or a move forward 1. Obviously, I don't have anything in start, so I just have to move one of the pawns forward 1. If I move this guy here, that is once again pet pick, and this one is dice roll. So we're going to go ahead and just do that.
All
Ooh,
right,
dice roll.
I drew an ace. I chose to move the green pawn forward 1, and that landed me on a dice roll. And so basically what I did is I took a d20. I selected 20 random books from my want to read list on Goodreads. I associated a number to them. And then basically once I rolled the die, I read the book that was associated with this number.
Whoa, that is also really fun. Okay, so we are obviously very numbers heavy in this TBR game. We have to do a random number generator, but I also now have to roll a die. So I don't think I own any, and if I do, it's kind of the very boring 6 numbers. So I might have to do an online D20 element just to mirror what Brittany is doing. Choose 20 random books. I could make it a little bit fun where it's like 10 that maybe I'm not super interested in prioritizing and then 10 that I am, and just seeing if the die agrees with me being able to prioritize what I want. Yeah, I could see. Or I could just be like, you know what, let's just allow myself some kindness, choose 20 books that I do really want to read, and then whatever one it ends up fitting that. So yeah, okay, so 2 number things. I find that very funny.
Draw number 6.
Oh my gosh, already.
All right, 7. Typically, I'm allowed to split movements between pawns of the same color, but since I don't have 2 pawns of the same color out on the board, I'm just going to move forward 7. So
you can tell I haven't played Sorry in a long time.
And then 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 book box. I think I'm going to go ahead and be brave and do 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, and I will pull from my challenge cup.
All right, then I drew the number 7, and I chose this time to go ahead and move the color green so that he could get into his safety zone. Now, the safety zone squares do not contain prompts, because anytime I land on one, I have to pull from my challenge jar. So let me grab that really quick. All right, so here's my trusty challenge jar, and he has been completely redone. So just as a reminder, this cup contains all of my physically owned TBR books. It contains all of the sequels to series that I'm in the middle of. It contains all of the recommendations that you've given me as part of the Read Like My Subscribers challenge. And it also contains the remaining prompts I need to satisfy for the other reading challenges that I'm doing throughout the year. Although in all honesty, I think there's maybe only like 2 or 3 of those left, but that's what this little guy is. So we're just going to go ahead and pull one, and I really hope it's kind to me. I will say that my only caveat here is that if it's a thick, chunky fantasy, I'm going to put it back because I'm already physically reading one at the moment, and I don't know if I'm going to have bandwidth to start another one. So, okay. All right. I'm really nervous because this is the one book that's completely out of my control, and I will have no idea if I can fit it into Slayerfest or not. Okay. All right. We got one.
It's not even a prompt. It's like an actual book. All right. So I am not showing you what was actually pulled in the jar because I think it'd be really fun for you all to obviously get that reveal when you're watching Brittany's video. And what I'm going to do though is, because I obviously don't have the same physical TBR as she does, and I doubt that we have too much overlap anyway, which is what's very exciting about BookTube. You're interacting with people who read completely different things. So for Brittany, what she chose was part of a series. It ended up being like book 6 or 7 in the series. So there's an angle I can go with, like maybe continuing a series that I'm slightly farther along in compared to others. So keeping that in my back pocket. It's also a romance though, and you all know that I don't really read romance very often. So what I could also do is either find a book on my physical shelf that has a subplot romance, just to obviously have a nice nod to Brittany's pick, because I do like to try to mirror them as much as possible. So what we're going to do is a continuation of a series. So it's not going to be the start of one. I've got to read a sequel on my shelf, and it's a bonus if I have a romantic subplot. Not gonna lie, even though I'm not a big romance genre person, I do love a great romantic subplot. So this will probably be a really fun pick for me, and I will likely just not be as strict as Brittany is, where she ended up kind of being forced to just read whatever book it is. I'm just gonna see what I can actually fit to match that.
That was 6, and I think the board was pretty kind, even though I definitely do have to select a book for almost every single draw. That's not too bad, and I think for the most part I can make them work with my Slayerfest TBR. So I'm going to go ahead and pull one more card and see what I get.
One more card. Lucky number 7.
We have another 8. I can't move the green one because there's not 8 spaces left. So let's see. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Continuous series. That is perfect. I can 100% do that one. All right. Now I'm tempted to keep going, but I don't think I'm going to. I think I'm going to just play it safe and stop it here. So these will be my draws for the month of September.
All right. And the very final draw was...
Speaking of continuing series, I got to continue another series. Okay. You know what? This is probably a really healthy TBR game for me to do this coming month, because it's going to allow me to prioritize some books that I've kept on my shelf, some series that I haven't actually continued when I really should be, not only because I have an obligation to those characters to follow it through and, you know, see the endings that they all have in store for them by the authors, but also for me. It's good for me to continue series, and I feel as though sometimes, even if we want to continue a series, we end up seeing shiny new things, we want to start a new series, and we also just have a lot of other prompts that sometimes series don't end up fitting. So thank you, Brittany, for letting me have a pretty low-key month. I say this before I've chosen my books, so we'll see what actually happens. I also have some priority reads that I just have to read no matter what, so if they don't fit these prompts, well, I'm going to have a book-heavy month as it is. But I really loved the variety that could have come out of this TBR game, and I understand why Brittany continues to play it, because it was really fun to watch.
Now I'm going to quickly run through my Slayerfest TBR. A lot of these are going to be incorporated in the Slayerfest TBR. The book that I plan to read for prompt number 1, this is a tentative.
I'm not going to let you see that. If you're participating in Slayerfest, you absolutely have to be watching Brittany's video to the end so you can see all of the TBR books she's added for this readathon to get those hints that you're craving.
If you are not participating in Slayerfest, please comment and let me know if you have read any of the books on my TBR, what your thoughts are. I would love to know. Or if you've made it to the end of this video and you are not feeling chatty, go ahead and leave me a dice emoji in honor of the dice roll that I had to do for my TBR game. And as always, if you like this video or if you just like me, please be sure to give it a big thumbs up and subscribe if you haven't already. community. I typically post 2 videos a week, one on Wednesdays, one on Sundays, and I would love to connect with you in any of those future videos or on any of my other social media platforms, which you can always find linked down below along with any books featured in the video. Until next time.
Bye, Brittany. Always a pleasure, and I wish you so much luck as you begin Slayerfest. It honestly looks like such a fun readathon, and if I wasn't already a co-host for Mystic Readathon, I'd probably be doing both, meaning that I'm telling you once again, viewer at home, see if you can do both. I know that there's vampire teams for both, so honestly, like, just lead it to the spooky vibes this spooky season. And don't forget to subscribe to Brittany from Rescues and Reads. She will be linked below. This video will be linked below for you to go watch it immediately after so you can see what she ended up picking. And on top of that, her announcement video for Slayerfest as well as Nell's for Mystic Readathon, both in the description. And now I'm going to leave you for just a brief second, and you will see me in some distant future. No, near future, because September is just around the corner and I need to actually decide my TBR. So it's probably going to be later today or tomorrow, and you're going to find out what I actually did with all of these prompts given to me by Brittany. See you then. Welcome back, long time no see. Now it's time for me to reveal the books I've chosen for the prompts provided to Brittany and myself. Again, if you're interested in seeing how Brittany has interpreted these prompts, what books she has chosen from her own TBR, you're going to have to go to her video and watch, like, comment, subscribe, all of that good stuff. The first prompt that we received was a book set in a foreign country. So a country not set in my country, which is the United States. And I still kind of cheated. I feel like it's cheating, maybe it's not. But I ended up still choosing an Anglo country, and I'm having mixed feelings about it, but this is a book that I have to read this month, so I'm just gonna allow myself it, and that is Halloween Party by Agatha Christie. This is actually the book club choice for only Christie in the book club. This is part of the Manor, and my top tier sleuths, my highest tier guests, they have voted on this to be our book leading into spooky season. I've actually never read this before, so I'm very much looking forward to it. And I'm hoping it'll get us into some of the spooky Halloween vibes that we really want to be in by the time October arrives. I don't know too much about this book beyond the fact that it takes place, at least the beginning pages, at a Halloween party for children. And what's unique about this particular Christie is that it's quite morbid regarding the initial victim that we see on the page, a child. This child is known for lying, wanting all the attention, and one lie, potentially, that has gotten her into some significant trouble is that she claims she has seen a murder. Of course, no one believes her. The idea of the boy who cried wolf, and by the end of the night she is discovered dead. Her face is in the bobbing for apples tub, and now Hercule Poirot has to investigate. I'm 99% sure that Ariadne Oliver, another detective within Christie's canon, is in this book as well, and they kind of work together as they try to figure out what happened to this child, and was the child telling the truth? Had the child seen a murder previously? And that means we've got 2 dead bodies and a culprit on the run. Not gonna lie, I've heard that this isn't that impressive of a Christie, so if this has intrigued you and you're someone who hasn't read Christie before, and then by the end you're like, oh, that wasn't that great, listen, it's been known. A lot of people in the Christie community have said that this is kind of a subpar Christie, and I'm kind of okay with that. I'm more here for the atmosphere, to also be able to enjoy the fact that I can say I've read it and I can finally watch A Haunting in Venice, which is very loosely based off of this book. So I think it'll be a really fun time, and Only Christie in the Book Club is definitely going to have a watch party after this, probably for A Haunting in Venice, but also for other Halloween party adaptations, because why not? It's fun. The second prompt was actually one I had to do a little bit of work for. It was a random number generator, and to pay homage to Brittany and how she ended up doing it, she decided to number her entire physical TBR and then just figure out what number it landed on. I decided to do the same thing because a handful of months ago, back in December, I did a video in which I highlighted every single physically owned book that I haven't read yet, and I was smart and numbered them so I could figure out how many books that actually was. That ended up being 402 books, including ARCs. So I did a random number generator between 1 and 402, and the number that landed on, I think, was 290. So of course I had to go through that video, figure out what was number 290 on that list, double check I hadn't read it, because I have read some of the books on my physical TBR this year. I know, crazy concept. And the book that was 290 is actually Craig Rice's Trial by Fury. This one I have 100% had on a TBR list before. I don't know if I've had it on a TBR list for 2024 yet. If I have, well, surprise, I never read it, and I'm really excited to have a second chance to read it, especially because I am getting in the mood for kind of returning to my roots, reading Golden Age detective fiction. And in a very different vein from Agatha Christie, Craig Rice is an American detective fiction writer, predominantly from the 30s, 40s, and she is more known for screwball comedy mysteries where there's a lot of hilarity, there's a lot of kind of craziness going on where things are twisting in different directions, corpses are disappearing, they're appearing, the characters are trying to solve the murder while drinking a heavy amount of alcohol, and it's just kind of meant to be a ruckus time. Our main detective in this book is actually John J. Malone. He is a gray character. He's a defense lawyer who 100% knows that more often than not he is defending criminals. He knows they did it, and he's just kind of working with the system provided, saying that, well, you know, if this is the way I'm going to make money, I'm going to make money this way. But in the books I've read so far, all of the characters he's defended, that he has solved the case for, have been innocent. That seems to be a theme in Craig Rice as well, kind of defending innocence, defending those who've been falsely accused or who have received some type of frame-up job. And I've really enjoyed it. I've read 4 books by her so far. This is the 5th in the series, so it actually is perfect. I don't mind reading it out of order, but I'm excited that I'm going to continue and be able to read this series in order, returning to John J. Malone, 2 of his kind of assistants, Jake Justice and Helen Brand, who are just, again, a couple that is literally the definition of pure chaos. And this one seems to take them outside of Chicago, where the books have typically been set before. Instead, it's in a small town, and them being the outsiders, the new people to town, they're instantly suspected of the strange things happening. And I think it'll kind of freshen things up for me, and specifically for the series. And this is where things get super hairy. The next 4 prompts I am not going to say in order, and there's a reason for it, but I'll let you discover it as we go. So I ended up then deciding on my continuous series, which was technically the 7th role that Brittany chose because there was a skip in there. And that one, I was like, oh, that's going to be very easy. I have so many series that I have to continue, and one of them is actually a priority read for September. Changeless by Gail Carriger. This was voted upon by my Patreon, and I am not mad about it. This follows Miss Alexia Terabody. It's a part of the Parasol Protectorate series. In book 1, Alexia finds herself in Victorian London. I'm pretty sure it's Victorian and not Regency. But she is, you know, a part of London society. And in this alternate history, we have vampires, werewolves, ghouls, ghosts that are just kind of accepted. They're acknowledged that they exist, and they are out in the open. They're a part of London society. They've got to participate in English law, just as well as social etiquette expectations, and, you know, it works out for them. However, in book 1, which is called Soulless, we see vampires appearing where they shouldn't, and then vampires and werewolves disappearing, and everyone's beginning to wonder what's going on. Is there something extremely sinister happening within London society to these supernatural creatures? Meanwhile, we have our main character, Miss Alexia Terabody, and she's also within this group of supernatural creatures because she's preternatural. She is a human born without a soul, and that is something she really doesn't want people to be aware of because it can cause her to be in danger as well. But she ends up teaming up with Lord Macon, who is the alpha of the London werewolves, because they need to come down to figuring out what's going on, especially because at the beginning of the book, Alexia Terabody has to kill a vampire who tried to attack her, and they're like, what is happening? So anyways, there's that going on. There's also this kind of subplot romance between Lord Macon and Alexia, and it's just a really fun romp. It's hilarious, and I cannot recommend it enough. So I'm going to continue with Changeless for my final prompt, which was very vague and just saying continue a series. After choosing that very easy prompt, I ended up going back to the roll a d20 to figure out what book I'd be reading for that prompt. And the way I narrowed it down is I am trying to read every single book I purchased in 2024. I have a list going in my bullet journal, so I'm aware of the books I've purchased. And I thought, well, what I can do is from my most earliest purchase up to 20, so the first 20 books I bought this year that I still haven't read, I'm just going to use those. I'm going to do a die generator on Google and figure out what book I have to read. And of course, it being a d20, I rolled a 20, and so I ended up going through my bullet journal, numbering down all the way to the 20th book that I haven't read yet, and well, I'm going to show you the clip here. All right, so I ended up getting 20 out of 20 for my D20 roll. So that means what I'm going to do is I'm going to go through the books I haven't read yet, and whatever ends up being 20, that's the one I'm going to read. If I end up going all the way down through July, I also bought a bunch of books in August, so I'll just keep counting that way because I don't really know where I'm at. So let's see here. Not counting December because that's from 2023. But okay, so Cursed Rose 1, Division Bell 2. Oh, look how good I'm doing on my purchased reads. 3, 4, 5, 6. 7, 8, 9, 10, 11. I'm technically reading this right now, but I'm not going to count it because it hasn't been finished yet. So 11, 12. 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, 19, 20! Ah! Oh my gosh, wait, that's the last book in the Parasol Protectorate series. Oh god, should I actually read that and then it'll make me read all 4 books in the series? I mean, that would be lovely for my purchased books in 2024 goal. I'm tempted. Yes, that's right. I ended up rolling Timeless, which is the final book in the Parasol Protectorate series. So I figured I have 2 options. I can either read this, meaning I have to read all of the Parasol Protectorate books in the series to reach book 5, or I can simply give myself an out, and since I'm already reading book 2, I can read book 3 in its place. Well, I've decided to follow the rules very closely, and I'm very excited about it because I am going to read Timeless for my D20 roll. That means I am reading Blameless and Heartless as well. Blameless is book 3, Heartless is book 4, and I also realized I've got 2 more prompts to fit. What are the chances that these 2 books would fit those prompts? Well, one of the prompts ended up being summer, so summer setting, a book that gives you summer vibes, and when I was very quickly looking through the back of the book for Blameless, trying not to give myself any spoilers, I did see one phrase that really intrigued me. It says that Alexia flees England for Italy. I have no idea why. I decided not to read any further, and Italy 100% gives me summer vibes, so I was like, well, we'll stretch the prompt a little bit and have Blameless count for summer. And then the final prompt that I had to fulfill was the one in which I kind of had to match a series to the series that Brittany chose. I don't want to give away the series because I still want you to go watch Brittany's video, but it was a romance series. She had to read book 7, I think, in the series, and I'm not someone who reads very big series, so I definitely don't have a 7th book anywhere that I have to read, but I did want to lean into the romance, whether it be a romantic subplot or something to that effect. And I thought Heartless, the name in itself, also provides that. I was like, you know what, I already know that Alexia and Lord Macon have an ongoing romance based on book 1, so I feel like this is going to fit that. And that means Brittany from Rescues and Reads is going to help me completely finish the Parasol Protectorate series and take 4 books off of my purchase shelves, because I did end up getting very excited when I absolutely adored Soulless. I was like, you know what, I'm just going to have a look and see if Changeless is available, and I went on Pango Books, which is a selling site where readers sell to readers, and a reader was selling these 4 volumes. I don't know why they weren't selling the first book with it, but I was like, this is too good to be true. So I ended up buying them for $20 too. These 4 books for $20, and I was like, I'm taking it. That sounds great. And that is obviously a very exciting deal, but it did feel daunting to think, oh, that also means I'm telling myself I'm going to finish this series in 2024 if I actually read every book I've purchased. So yeah, thank you, Brittany, for honestly making the decision a lot easier for me. I can't wait. It's also perfect timing because I am participating in Mystic Readathon as one of the co-hosts. It's a readathon that is based off of Vampire Diaries, hosted by Nell Diamond. And honestly, it's a great homage to Brittany from Rescues and Reads, because in the same month of September, she is actually going to be hosting Slayerfest, which is based off of Buffy the Vampire Slayer. So what better way for me to honor both readathons by reading a book that has vampires in it? I mean, I'm into it. In addition to those 6 books that I have to read thanks to Brittany's TBR game, I do have a few other priority reads that I'm gonna have to add to my September TBR. One of them I'm already reading because it's a buddy read that I started in August that I'm gonna carry into September with Danni Dabbles, and that is Sunbringer by Hannah Kaner. I originally started this book a handful of months ago. I believe it was in May, in the lead up to the Amazing Readathon. I was reading it with Julie from Keep Calm with Books and Coffee and Brittany from Brittany Loves Reading. Both of them ended up being able to finish the book, and I just realized that I felt like I was rushing, and I felt the stress going into the Amazing Readathon as a co-host for it, and I didn't want to rush this really lovely, beautiful sequel to Godkiller, a book that I read earlier this year, gave 5 stars, still thinking about it today. And so I decided to hold off. I'll just restart the book, it's fine. And that's what I'm doing. I'm buddy reading it with Danni, and I'm having such a good time returning to this world. I'm so impressed by the author's ability to have a tight-knit fantasy. This book is bigger than Godkiller, and Godkiller was about 300 pages, this one's 360, and it's still so chock full of detail, of gorgeous writing, whether it be, a really sharp, well thought out piece of dialogue or a description, the metaphors that we're getting for emotions, for the human condition, for feelings of faith, of the extremes that faith can be. It's gorgeous. I'm already in love with this book, and I'm so glad that I'll be finishing it in September. Another buddy read that I won't be starting until the last week of September is Cabaret, Macabre by Mead. This is the 3rd book in the Joseph Spector mystery series. I've given the first 2 books in the series 5 stars, because I love the writing. I loved the locked room mystery. I love that Mead has so many nods and hints to the golden age of detective fiction, and I really appreciate it. It's super fun. So I'm really excited to finally be reading this book. You can see I have an arc, so I've really been waiting far too long to actually pick it up, but I wanted to make sure that I was buddy reading it with 2 other booktubers who were just as excited as I was. One of those is Danni Dabbles, and the other one is Krystal from Bomb Book Reviews. The 3 of us are going to read this in the last week of September. So if you want to join us, I think that we plan on doing some public sprints for it too, and the more the merrier. And finally, the 3rd buddy read that I'm participating in is with Nell from Nell Diamond, and again, Danni, and we're going to be reading the newest Chris Whitaker book. I believe it's called All the Colors of the Dark. I've read Chris Whitaker before. I'm 99% sure the others haven't experienced him at all, but I really loved All the Wicked Girls by him. It's actually kept on my shelf. You can see the spine right here, and I've really been meaning to read another book by him. I actually own the other book that he published, I think last year, We Begin at the End, and I'm just really excited to see if I love his writing as much as I did the first time around. If the math is mathing, that means we have reached 9 books, and I've got 2 more to mention. One of them I just got in the mail today. Cat on the Hero's Lap Volume 3. I am just obsessed with this series. I had so much fun reading Volumes 1 and 2 during the Amazing Readathon, and I'm so excited to finally be able to continue the series because I pre-ordered this, and I just, look how cute it is! It looks like they're experiencing snow for the first time, and I love it so much. It's so heartwarming and silly and cute and still quite adventurous. We have this fairy tale-esque environment, and the characters are pretty much on a Dungeons and Dragons campaign, but our hero, the character we see who's hugging these cats, he keeps being interrupted because the orange cat keeps just sitting on his lap, and he's like, I can't do anything. The cat's on my lap. I can't move him. Are you kidding me? And it just adds to the hilarity and ridiculousness of this world. And I love the lore that's coming from it as more characters are becoming involved and also becoming obsessed with these cats. And finally, the 11th book on this list is going to be The Hound of the Baskervilles by Sir Arthur Conan Doyle. This one ended up getting 2nd in my Patreon poll, and it was really close between this one and Changeless, so I'm going to do my best This is not necessarily a promise, but it is a potential book that I'm going to try and finish during September, just so my patrons can see what I think about it, because they obviously were really excited to see what my thoughts were. I have read some Arthur Conan Doyle before. I ended up reading The Adventures of Sherlock Holmes. I've read A Study in Scarlet and The Sign of the Four. I will say that so far his short stories have been the most impressive for me. I wasn't a big fan of A Study in Scarlet, nor did I really like Sign of the Four. So we'll see what happens with another classic, The Hound of the Baskervilles. I do think it's going to get me more into the autumnal feels, the kind of dark atmosphere, the questions of if this hound is supernatural or not. So I have high hopes, and I have a very beautiful edition. But yeah, we're gonna see how it goes. And that is my September TBR. Thank you so much for getting to the end, for going and supporting Brittany from Rescues and Reads, because I really do hope that that's what you get from this. Not only will you be excited for the books that I'm reading, but you'll be intrigued enough to go support Brittany, see what books she's reading, and also potentially participate in Slayerfest, her September readathon, while also participating in Nell's Mystic Readathon. You can be on Team Humans with me, and then go over and be a vampire with Brittany. I think that's the best of both worlds. And of course, I have to thank my guests at the manor, my sleuths, witnesses, suspects, and corpses, especially my newest suspect, Nicole. I'm so glad that you were able to join us, and I hope it's okay, but I will be keeping an eye on you because you might be the killer. That's all from me today, and I hope to see you all in the next one. Bye!